Hey y'all, welcome back. Today we are going to be kicking off the Declutter makeup series, and I am going to be starting with highlights because why not go big? I did a rough count and currently have 59 highlighters, and I want to cut that down a little bit. So let's just get into this, and then we will look at the number that I'm keeping versus what I'm decluttering at the end of the video. This is the Divine Rose Skinfinish Ultra Glow Highlighter. So earlier this year, I had this big love affair with all things Pat McGrath Divine Rose, and this was a limited edition product, and I'm torn. It is a shade that has a shift to it, so it's kind of like a pink to a rose gold, a little bit of a gold. My thing is the color isn't the most flattering on my skin tone, and it's too dark for me. So I end up using this almost as a kind of like a blush topper, but very, very subtly. So I am going to, in a sense, declutter this from my daily use products. I'm going to keep it because I want to keep it like in my little like Pat McGrath display section here in my office, and because I think it's so pretty. So I'm going to keep this, but it's no longer going to be used in highlighting because I don't enjoy it as a highlight. We have the Maybelline Master Chrome Metallic Highlight in the shade 050 Rose Gold. So this was very popular quite a few years ago. They started off with just a gold shade, then they brought out this one, and I think they've expanded a few more shades. This is a nice kind of warm ink highlight. This is one, it swatches beautifully. The shade is very workable for my skin tone. My issue is on my face, I have an oily skin type, I have enlarged pores, I have skin texture. This does not do my skin texture any favors. It just really feels like it emphasizes everything. I have a friend, I think, who will really enjoy this, so I will declutter this one and pass this on to a friend. Next we have the Milani. This is their Instant Glow Powder Strobe Light in the shade 01 Afterglow. It's very similar to the one from Maybelline. The shade's just a little bit lighter. It's a fraction cooler. I love how this shade swatches, but it's another one that is quite metallic on my skin. It just makes me look very textured. So I will be decluttering this shade as well. Next, we have one from Stila. This is the Heaven's Hue Highlighter in the shade Kitten. This is one of those interesting, it's almost like a kind of putty texture. It almost acts like a cream, but it dries to a powder finish. You can use it over liquid, over powder. It works really well. I love this. It is a very smooth highlight, never emphasizes skin texture. My issue is it's one of those shades that is just a little dark for my skin tone. I like using this shade when I have a fake tan. It's perfect. I cannot bring myself to part with this right now, so I will be hanging on to the Stila Heaven's Hue highlight. I have 3 shades of the highlighters from Ofra. I have the collaboration with Nikki Tutorials in Cloud 9. I have another Nikki collab tutorial in shade Glazed Donut. And then I have Start Inspired from the collaboration with Samantha March. We will start off with the shade Cloud 9. This is a very interesting, this is almost like a kind of off-white, warm white duochrome shade. It is extremely smooth to the touch. When swatched, it has a very kind of pinky feeling to it. You can build it up, does not emphasize texture much, and depending on how the light hits it, it shifts. I really like this one. The Ofra highlights are a lot more intense than what I reach for in my everyday life. So I'm gonna kind of set them off to the side, swatch all of them, look at some other ones in my collection, and then I'll decide what I'm gonna keep, what I'm going to declutter. Because I only want to keep one of them because I just don't reach for them because they are a lot more bling than what I go for on a daily. Next up, we have the shade Glazed Donut. So here we have the shade Glazed Donut. Glazed Donut is more of like a neutral to slightly warm off-white shade. It's a very nice one. This is the very first one I bought from Ofra. This is one I might hang on to. I do like this shade more than Cloud 9. So I know for sure I can declutter Cloud 9 since this is more so in the running. But let's check out the one from Samantha March before I decide which of the 3 shades I might keep. So the next one I have have is the one from the first collaboration with Samantha March. This is called Start Inspired, and this is a mix of 2 shades in their collection. The more golden shade is called Start Island. The pinky shade is called Pillow Talk. I do not care for either one of those on their own. Pillow Talk is very pink. Star Island, very gold. I like mixing the 2 shades together. They kind of neutralize each other. And when mixed together, they create a very nice neutral shade. That is, of the 3, I feel like this is the smoothest. I do like this shade. So I'm going to pass along Cloud 9, Glazed Donut, and I'm going to hang on to Start Inspired. I have a newer one that I recently picked up for my Best of Amazon video. This is the Rimmel London Highlight Buttery Soft Highlighting Powder. I have the shade 001 Stardust. So I'm going to swatch this right down here. You can see this is a very warm, very gold shade. Not a shade I'm going to reach for again. I will be passing this on because if I don't, it's just going to sit in my collection and never get used. So I'm going to pass this to someone who might enjoy it more than I do. The formula is very soft, very smooth. It's a beautiful formula, just the color is not for me. Next, I have one from Jaclyn Cosmetics. This is the highlighter in the shade Iced. Beautiful, beautiful packaging. I love everything about this packaging. Powder itself is very buttery smooth. It might be one of the smoothest highlights I have to the touch. When I picked this up, this was the lightest shade that Jaclyn Cosmetics offered. As you can see, it's just a little too warm, too gold for my skin tone. It never really blends in. It always looks like a stripe of something on my skin. I want someone to take and enjoy this, so I will be passing on the Jaclyn Cosmetics highlight in the shade Iced. I have the Wet n Wild Color Icon Bronzer in the shade Reserve Your Cabana. I first bought this powder many years ago. This was when I first got into makeup. I don't remember where I saw this, but I picked this up because someone said it was very similar to the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Powders, and they were saying the ambient highlighting powders were amazing highlighters. It's almost a color that is right at my skin tone. It's a very nice, very, very buttery, smooth powder. Really like it. But as a highlight, it doesn't too much. I am going to actually move this into my pressed powder drawer because I feel like it will get more used as a powder. So removing this from my highlight collection, but moving it towards pressed powder to see if I like it more that way. As a bronzer though, way too pale to be used as a bronzer. I have the Catrice Cosmetics Sungasm Face and Body Highlight. This is massive. It is a very interesting, almost like a baked gelée texture, and I am going to swatch it right here next to that Wet n Wild Color Icon Bronzer. This is a very fascinating formula because the more you apply, the more it builds. It never emphasizes texture. It is for a peachy shade. It's not too warm. It's not too cool. It's more of a neutral, warm shade, which even though I do have cooler undertones, this is very, very workable. I really love this formula and I'm going to hang on to this Catrice. And for an affordable drugstore brand, you get so much product for the price. So really recommend this if you're looking for a great highlight and you have more of a fair to maybe light medium skin tone. I think you would really enjoy this and it's a total bang for the buck. We have the MAC Hyper Real Glow Palette. This is in the variation Flash and Awe. You get 3 different shades of the Hyper Real Glow Powder. So I'm going to start on the left with the lightest. Very nice, kind of neutral, slightly warm champagne color. We're going to do the middle shade. This is a very similar shade to the first shade. It is slightly more pink. Depth is slightly darker, but on the skin, the first 2 shades, there really isn't a huge difference. The most contrast in the palette comes from the third shade, which is the darkest, and this is more of a warm, kind of coppery shade. This is a palette I've hung on to for years. I got it in one of my gratis orders when I worked for MAC, and I always wanted it because when I was doing makeup makeup appointments when I worked for MAC, I reach for this all the time because it is such a beautiful product. I just never ever reach for it. I'm going to declutter it because I don't use it and someone needs to use it because it is a beautiful, beautiful product. Physicians Formula, we have the Mineral Wear Diamond Dust, and this is in the shade Starlit Glow. I picked this up beginning of the year because I saw it on a new product display at my local drugstore, and it's an interesting product. The base shade is quite translucent. I'm building this up to see if you can see it on the skin. It has more, it's almost more of like a fairy dust effect because it has a champagne kind of sparkle to it, but it's more of like a glittery top coat. This is really pretty used as an eyeshadow. I don't like the noticeable glitters. I'm not going to reach for it. I have a friend who loves glittery things, so I'm going to pass this on to her. From Essence, we have the classic Essence Pure Nude Highlight. This is in number 10, Be My Highlight. For the longest time, this was the only shade that Essence had. It is such a beautiful, beautiful highlight shade. Now that I don't really fake tan like I used to fake tan weekly. I would always have a fresh fake tan, and that would make my fair skin quite a bit darker. And since I've stopped doing it, I really only do it now for special occasion. I can't make this shade work for me like I used to be able to. It is so beautiful. Someone needs to love it. So I am going to pass this on to a friend who I think will really love it with a deeper skin tone because this is a stunning, affordable drugstore highlight. It is possibly one of the best highlight formulas I have ever tried between drugstore high-end. It's just too dark for my skin tone. So I will be passing on Essence Pure Nude Highlight just because the shade's too dark. I have a Laura Mercier highlight. This is the highlighting powder in the shade Rose Glow. This was part of either Laura Mercier's spring or summer collection. It was called Rose Glow. They came out with a few new shades in their Caviar eyeshadow stick. And only place in Canada I could find that had this highlighter was Nordstrom. So I ordered this through the sales associate I was working with. It's just too dark. It's slightly darker and more rosy than the Essence. The Essence would be quite a good dupe if you want something a little bit less pinky. The texture is really nice. It's just a color that doesn't work for me, and someone needs to be able to use it. So I'm going to pass on the Laura Mercier Rose Glow Highlight. I have the Buxom Wanderlust Glow Highlight. This is in the shade White Russian. Beautiful, beautiful limited edition product. This is an interesting one because when I swatch it, it looks too dark for my skin. It does have more of a neutral to slightly cool pinky undertone to it, but it's one of those highlights that when I apply it with a brush on the skin, it is very, very workable. I absolutely love this shade. Only thing with it is I'm not going to reach for it on my channel anymore because it is a limited edition product. I can't find it for retail anymore, so I don't really talk about it. So I'm going to hang on to this, but this is going into my archive collection so I can reference it later on if I maybe find a dupe shade. So another one that I like, I'm keeping. It's just being moved from my highlight collection. We have the very classic MAC Mineralized Skinfinish in the shade Soft and Natural. This was one of the very first highlighting products I ever purchased when I started working for Estee Lauder, and I walked over to the MAC counter. I'd heard about this in a magazine. I wanted to try it because it was like the hot thing at the moment. This is not my original one. This is the second one I purchased when I moved to Canada. It's a really nice shade. It is a classic that I think will forever have a place in my collection. It's just really nice, and I feel like it should get more love on social media because it's a wonderful product. So I will be hanging on to MAC Mineralized Skin Finish in the shade Soft and Natural. Another shade we have from MAC is the MAC Extra Dimension Skin Finish, and this is in the shade Double Gleam. So the Extra Dimension Skin Finish is MAC's more of a baked gelée texture. And these are so soft, so smooth. Never emphasize the look of skin texture. And this shade is a soft gold beigey shade, but it has the slight silver reflect, which makes it very, very wearable for anyone with a fair to light, maybe light medium skin tone that has neutral, cool, or warm undertones. It's such a chameleon shade that works for such a range of undertones. And I'm going to hang on to MAC Extra Mention Skin Finish in the shade Double Gleam. I have another MAC Extra Mention Skin Finish. This is in a limited edition packaging. This is from the MAC Summer 2021 Botanic Panic collection for summer. And the shade is called Fleur. I am going to swatch it right here next to Double Gleam. If I would have seen a swatch of this next to Double Gleam online, I don't think I would have purchased it because the shade is almost identical to Double Gleam. Biggest difference is Fleur is slightly warmer, slightly peachier. The differences are minuscule because even to the eye up close, it's so hard to even tell them apart. I have it. You can still find it on MAC's website, and I'm going to hang on to it because it's really pretty. I have two of these little highlighters from Laura Geller. These are her original baked highlight formula. First shade we will look at is the classic French Vanilla. This was, I believe, the only shade Laura Geller had in her range for this formula for quite a long time. And I love the texture. I love how smooth it is. It is a really beautiful baked formula that adds radiance to the skin. It doesn't have any type of glow, shimmer, pearl to it. There's just something about the formula that is truly magical, and it really does such a beautiful job at highlighting without drawing attention to pores, fine lines, texture. It's a very smoothing highlight, which is quite a rarity in the world of makeup. Shade French Vanilla was too dark for me, so I picked up the other shade called French Kiss. This shade is perfect. It is just a fraction lighter than my skin tone, so that is definitely going to be more of a no makeup highlight. It has more of a neutral to slightly cool pinky tone. So if you are someone like me who has more neutral cool tone shades, this is going to be a very beautiful highlight. And same formula, so it doesn't emphasize anything. So keeping French Kiss, decluttering French Vanilla. Physicians Formula Butter Highlights. I have the shade Pearl. This is one of the most interesting textures because it's not quite a cream. It's not a liquid. It's almost hard to call a putty because it has more of a slip to it than the Stila highlight. Feeling this again, I might like this putty formula slightly better than the Stila. Really beautiful. I don't know if I mentioned it. This is the shade Pearl. Absolutely love this. I reach for this so much off camera, and you can see I've made quite a nice dent in it. If you were someone who likes applying your makeup with your fingers and you haven't tried these Physicians Formula highlighters out, I would really recommend it. And I specifically mentioned finger application because with a brush, these do not perform very well. These are definitely something you need to apply with your fingers. I've tried it with a sponge, kind of lackluster. With your fingers, way to go, and just tap it into the skin. It is perfection, and there's quite a few shades in the range too, so definitely hanging on to this one. We have the Wet n Wild Mega Glow Highlighting Powder. This is the shade Blossom Glow. I remember when this formula first launched, it was everywhere. It was, you could not turn on a YouTube channel without hearing about these. They are beautiful. And you can see here, compared to the other shades, this is the lightest one. This might be one of the lightest highlight shades that I own. And it has that same kind of brightness and light reflect to it that the Milani highlighter had and the Maybelline Master Chrome had. But this texture does not emphasize your skin texture, fine lines, wrinkles, or pores. So I am going to hang on to this very affordable drugstore gem. Next, I have the NARS. This is the NARS, I don't know, it doesn't have a shade, it doesn't have a product name on the back. I believe this is just called the NARS Highlighting Powder. I have the shade Capri. This is a very, very beautiful shade. This is definitely more of a pearl pink shade. And I'm gonna swatch it right here next to the Wet n Wild. Very interesting. So if we look at the Physicians Formula in Butter Highlight, the Wet n Wild, and this NARS. These three shades are very, very similar. They're just getting slightly warmer, but they all work really, really well for my skin tone. I love this NARS highlight. It has an impact, but it doesn't emphasize skin texture. Really, really, really wonderful formula that I don't hear a lot of people talk about here on YouTube. So if you've not tried this NARS formula, I really, really recommend it. Next, I have the Natasha Denona Super Glow. This is in the shade 01 Fair. This is a newer one to my collection. I did not pick this up when it first launched, and I don't know why. I didn't know why. Really, really beautiful shade, light highlight shade, perfect for fair skin. Darker skin tones can get away if you want to pop. I find this formula works best when applied with a specific brush. I only enjoy using this formula when I apply it with the BK Beauty number 106. Something about using this combination. It makes the skin look so smooth, but very, very highlighted and reflective. I love this formula. I love this color, love this highlight. Definitely keeping this one. We have the Hourglass Ambient Strobe Lighting Powder. I have the shade Iridescent Strobe Light. Classic baked formula. Swatch it down here. This is quite a peachy shade. It's very pretty. This is another very kind of soft highlight shade. Looking at it swatched, it is very similar to the Laura Geller highlight, but this is slightly warmer, more peachy. I'm going to declutter this. I have the Clinique. This is the Powder Pop Flower Highlighter in the shade Lunar Pop. Now, this came out, and when they launched this, they also launched a bronzer, I think called Solar Pop. They were limited edition. You can still find these available on different retailers. And it is, once again, it's a warmer highlight than I normally reach for, but the formula is stunning. And even though it has more of a slightly warm goldy shade, I find it very, very workable. It's a very smooth highlight. I absolutely love this. I'm going to hang on to this. I've also decided, spur of the moment, I'm going to declutter the Stila. I have the Benefit Dandelion Twinkle. You know, that's pretty, but this almost looks more of like a pale copper shade, and the intensity is similar to some of the other ones I've swatched here. That is so strange. Yeah, this is almost looking orange on my skin. I don't know if it's here or not, but I'm going to declutter that. The Clay Depot Luminizing Face Enhancer. Mine is in the shade number 14, Delicate Pink. Looks like this. We'll swatch it right here. This is not going to really show up too much. It's a very soft, very, very delicate highlight. If you are looking for a very, very intense highlight that is going to beaming from space, this is not your highlight. These are, I believe, $125 on their website and counter. I believe you can buy refills, but if you were looking for a very, very intense highlight, this is not the highlight for you. This is definitely more of someone who wants like a no highlight highlight. There's no noticeable glitter, light reflect particles to it. This formula was not my favorite when I first tried it. It's really, really grown on me, and the best way I've found to apply it is with the applicator that it comes with. So I have this one on my little shelf behind me. I have the little one that came out from the holiday collection this year, and I'm keeping that one. I'm keeping this one. These are definitely a luxury splurge, but in my book, it is worth it. These next two are from Dior. These are kind of like the highlight that stole the show for me in 2021. These are the Dior Forever Couture Luminizers. I have the shade 03 Pearlescent Glow and 02 Pink Glow. So I'm going to start by swatching shade number 2, Pink Glow. Swatch that right here. That is just the most beautiful, slightly beigey, neutral to cool tone pink highlight. Gives you a nice pop, but it's also quite smoothing on the skin. I absolutely love this. Will be hanging onto it. We have the shade 03 Pearlescent Glow. Now, this is not a typical highlight that I would have in my collection. As you can see, it's very, very glittery. It's very reminiscent in a way of that Physicians Formula Diamond Wear highlight. With this one, though, even though it has a pearl to it, it's a very smooth pearl. It's very beautiful. It has something very ethereal, very kind of dreamy and whimsical about it. It has a very strong kind of blue silver reflect to it. And, you know, this is a shade I know I will not get a ton of use out of because it's not an everyday for special occasion. It's so beautiful, and I currently use this more as an inner corner highlight versus a standalone cheek highlight. So absolutely love this hanging onto it. Also decided I'm going to declutter this Ofra x Samantha March Start Inspired highlight. I'm keeping several that are very, very similar, so I can part with this one without worrying about it. This is the Laura Mercier Matte Radiance Bay Powder in the shade Highlight 01. Very, very beautiful. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Mine has quite a dip in the middle. I still have a lot left to go, but this is one I will keep panning. This is in a very interesting shade because it is warmer than I go for. But if you saw the video I did where I talk about personal color, finding the colors that work for you, this shade, even though it's warm, it has more of a muted kind of champagne gold property. When it's blended out, it works very, very well for my skin. This was the highlight that made me truly fall in love, more skin-like, no makeup, your skin but better kind of highlight. It is a powder highlight that is incredibly smooth to the touch. Never emphasizes skin texture. It just makes your skin look beautiful and glassy. If you love the look of a cream or liquid highlight, but you don't like using cream or liquid products, I feel like you would really, really enjoy this Laura Mercier highlight. So this is definitely not a new product to market. It's been around 4 years. When this runs out, I will repurchase. Absolutely love this. Hanging on to it, you will have to pry it from my hands. I love it so much. We have another product from Dior. Now, this is an interesting one. This was called limited edition, but on Dior's website, you can still find this available. And this is one of their backstage face glow palettes, and this is in the shade 004 Rose Gold. This was available at Sephora for holiday 2020, and I'd seen these Dior backstage palettes, but I wasn't drawn to them. Something about this really, really spoke to me. One thing that I did notice off when I first got it, this shade right here is not glued down. If you're not careful, it falls out. Doesn't bother me. I don't shake and throw my products, so it doesn't bother me. If I wanted to, I could glue it down. So I'm going to swatch from top to bottom, left to right. So I'm going to start with this pale gold shade. Swatch that right here. Let's watch this rosy pink shade, this soft kind of peachy ivory shade, and then this kind of warm apricot color. Here are the shades separate. If I were using these shades as individuals, the only one I would personally reach for is this pale apricot shade. What I enjoy doing is I take for this, I like using whatever highlight brush I feel like using for the day, and I will just kind of dig my brush into all 3 shades and mix together. Let me see if I can't create the effect here by mixing them all together. So when you mix them all together, you just get a really, really kind of beautiful shade that works really, really well for my skin tone. It almost becomes like a skin tone match for my skin. So I love this. As long as this is available on the Dior website, I will keep using it because it is an absolutely stunning formula. I just wish it was a little bit easier to get your hands on if you weren't shopping from the Dior website. The Givenchy Prism Lib Highlighter, and this is from this year's holiday collection, and this is in shade number 10, Organza Ore. Now, I've only used this product for the video I did for the collection, and it's an interesting one. I'm going to mix the 2 shades together because trying to isolate the colors to use on their own, a little difficult. It has more of a warm kind of coppery, slightly rose gold texture to it. It's very, very warm. It's not my ideal shade of highlight. Wearing this on the cheeks layered underneath a bronzer is beautiful. It's a very smooth highlight. If you have a warmer skin tone than mine, I think you will really, really enjoy this. This is the shade I feel like that would work for a host of different skin tones. The container comes with this like little puff. I find the puff, you can definitely use the puff. It's just, you get a lot of product, and something about using the puff makes this look like a very warm copper shade. So I keep the puff in the container almost like a stopper in case it gets knocked over. So I'm going to hang on to this. It's new. I need to play with it some more. And who knows, I might reference it again in this season, but it's nice. I would definitely try the formula again in a different shade. So we've officially finished all of the powder highlights. So now let's knock out the liquid and cream highlights. First, we have the Benefit What's Up highlight. This is a very classic highlight. It is a kind of like a lot of people's introduction, and in my opinion, to cream highlights. This is a very warm toned kind of champagne highlight. I have kept this in my collection on and off for years because it's such a classic. It would always like go bad. I would throw it out, rebuy it because it was something I felt like I needed to have. And the shade just isn't one of the best shades for my skin tone. A little too dark, a little too warm. So you know what, I'm going to finally pass this along to a friend and just say goodbye because this is something I don't use because it doesn't work really well for my skin tone. So Decluttering Benefit What's Up. IT Cosmetics Hello Light Cream Highlighter in the shade Radiance. I've mentioned this several times on my channel before because it is one of my favorite highlights. You can barely see it on the skin. When I was a freelance makeup artist doing a lot of bridal makeup, this was my go-to highlight for brides and especially my mother of the brides or any type of mature people I did makeup on because a lot of times a lot of more of my mature clients were very resilient to try and highlight because they felt like it was just going to accentuate anything that maybe they didn't love. This highlight adds a beautiful, luminous, glassy sheen, but it never, ever emphasizes the look of pores, textures. It's stunning. My only complaint is I wish it was easier to find. The only place I can currently find it is on the IT Cosmetics website. But as long as I can get my hands on it, I will continue to purchase it. This is my third one of these I've bought, and I really, really love it. So hanging on to the IT Cosmetics Hello Light Cream Highlighter. We have the Quo Beauty Glow Getters Illuminating Drops. This is the shade number 32 Champion. I saw this on a new display and it intrigued me because I haven't really tried a lot from Quo. There is nothing wrong with this at all. It looks so smooth, but this is one of those products that if you have fine lines, enlarged pores, unwanted or skin texture that you don't like, it's going to emphasize everything. So I am going to declutter this and pass this on to a friend who I think will enjoy it. Up next, I have 3 shades of the Charlotte Tilbury Beauty Light Wand. I have the original one in Spotlight. I have Pillow Talk, and I have the original release of Pink Gasm, which was almost like a blush highlight hybrid. So I'm going to start with the original Spotlight and go right here. These two are more original releases from when they first released. This one's starting to smell a little bit like paint thinner. The Pink Gasm smells fine, but I don't know. It's just not a shade I love. It's very warm. I feel like it emphasizes my skin texture. I just don't like it. So I'm going to declutter Pink Gasm. I'm just going to throw away the Spotlight. That leaves me with the Pillow Talk Beauty Light Wand. I picked this up last fall in the Sephora sale, and this was very disappointing because I love all things Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk. And this shade for my skin tone is just a little too dark, too coppery, and it's just very, very obvious on my skin. So I'm going to pass this along to a friend. We have the L'Oreal True Match Lumi Glow Armor Glow Boosting Drops in the shade 507 Daybreak. I remember I picked this up a few years ago because I think it was like an Allure Best of Beauty. It has a very kind of strong, like vanilla scent to it. It is a beautiful icy pink highlight shade. It's just very, very strong, and as much as I love it, I find it really emphasizes my skin texture, which is something I've mentioned quite a bit. I don't want to emphasize my skin texture because it's something I don't love about my skin, and I don't want to emphasize things about my skin I don't love. So I will also be decluttering this highlight. I have an oldie but a goodie. This is something I know I'm just going to throw away. Cream and liquid products, they go off a lot quicker than powder products. And this is a MAC product. This is from the Pro Store. This is the Pro Face Palette in Illuminate. And you have 4 shades of the MAC cream color base exclusive to this palette. So from top to bottom, left to right, you have this really beautiful kind of pale peachy shade. We have the darker kind of taupey shade in the top corner. We have a gold, and then you have this kind of copper orange. I would mix these shades together a lot, but I found myself really only reaching for these 2, specifically this one. I would use this one in combination with this one. I don't know. This was really nice. If you are a freelance makeup artist, this could be a great asset for your kit. But if you're an individual, these 2 remind me a lot of the effect I get using the cream color bases in Hush and Shell, and I would just buy those again. So I'm going to just go ahead and throw this away because it's old, and yeah, it's just too old. So I'm going to pass. I'm going to toss this away. So MAC Pro Face Palette and Illuminate being decluttered. I was also just doing some Googling, and apparently this L'Oreal True Match is not supposed to have the vanilla scent that mine does. So I'm going to take that as a sign this is expired, even though it's only like a year and a half old. I'm going to declutter this, or I'm just going to throw this one away then, because I don't want anyone to use it, I don't want anyone to use an expired product. I have this adorable little mini of the NARS Multiple in the shade Copacabana. This is another one of those products that was very, very popular back in the kind of OG days of YouTube. It is a really beautiful highlight. This is a more neutral toned champagne peachy shade, wonderful for fair to light skin, and I love this. I keep considering when I run out of this mini size to purchase the full size because it's such a beautiful cream highlight. So hanging on to the mini NARS. Next, I have another little deluxe sample size. This is the Say Glowy Super Gel in the shade Star Glow. It's a nice kind of warm champagne tone. I love how this goes on. I love how this applies to the skin, but I find it doesn't play well with all foundations. It does really well with the new Say Slip Tint, but some of my other foundations that my tried and trues, I find this makes them break up. So since it doesn't play with all of my foundations, I'm going to pass it on to a friend so they can try this out, because if it's going to be a fussy product that I have to really kind of work with in order to make it work with the products I have and love, then I'm not going to reach for it. So I'm going to declutter the Say Glowy Super Gel. Clinique Chubby Stick Sculpting Highlight, and this is in the shade 01 Hefty Highlight. This is such a beautiful highlight. This is one I'm very guilty of. Gets pushed to the back of my drawer. I don't reach for it, but when I reach for it, it is perfect. And now that I'm decluttering and making space to really kind of utilize more of the products I have and I love, this is going to be getting a lot more use. This is one of my all-time favorite highlights. I feel like Clinique is just a brand that people sleep on when there's so many wonderful products. So this Chubby Stick highlight, definitely keeping, highly recommend. I have the RMS Beauty. This is the original Living Luminizer. For me, I wanted to love it, but I didn't. I just dug my finger into it, so that is not fun. It has a kind of slightly clear, slightly pearly base. It's not overly warm. It's not overly cool. It's a nice kind of neutral in between color. It's beautiful on the skin, but RMS Beauty, it is a clean beauty brand. So this has a base in coconut oil. My skin does not respond well to coconut oil. It causes me to break out. So that means this product has not been used because it doesn't work well with my skin. I've had it too long. It smells off compared to when I got it. This is another product that's just going to be thrown in the trash. Next, I have one of the Hourglass Vanish Strobe Stick Highlight. Mine is in the shade Rose Gold Flash. Beautiful texture, really beautiful texture. Very, very smooth, doesn't emphasize anything. I have no idea why I picked up this shade because it is way too dark for me. It's quite a warm coppery color. I am going to pass this on to someone who I think might enjoy it. Last I checked, these Hourglass stick highlighters do come in 4 different shades, but the shade Pink Flash would be the best bet for my skin tone. But I have other shades that are so similar that I love just as much as far as the formula, as far as these, like this Clinique one, that I don't feel the need to repurchase the Hourglass one, because these are nice, but they're Hourglass luxury price point, so I'm going to declutter the Hourglass Stick Blush. This is one from Burberry. This is the Sheer Glow Highlighting Pencil, and this is in the shade number 1 Nude Radiance. It's a similar pencil cream stick like the face shaping highlighter. So once you kind of blend it out, shear it down, even though it's quite warm, it's really, really beautiful. My issue is I bought this product when I first started at Nordstrom. I started at Nordstrom back in 2018, so that means this is pushing 3 years old. I need to throw this. I need to throw it away because it's just too old. Up next, I have this double-ended kind of highlighting stick from KKW Beauty. This is the light highlighting stick. So you have Light 1, which is a matte peachy kind of highlight shade, and then you have Light 2, which is this warm golden pearly shade. It kind of smells like Play-Doh now. I'm going to take it as a sign this has gone off, and I'm going to throw this away as well. I also think KKW Beauty is doing they're redoing the brand because this was no longer available on her website. This is the Ciate Dewy Stick in the shade Glow. This was just a kind of clear balm shade. I found it really, really messed with products underneath. If you had anything that was liquid, this would kind of just break it up, and it didn't play well over powders. It was just a product that was really fussy, didn't work for a lot. This is over 3 years old, so I'm going to throw this away as well. This is the L'Oreal True Match Lumi Glotion in the shade 901 Fair Glow. I have repurchased this. This is my 3rd bottle, and that is because I use this all of the time. I absolutely love it. This is very similar to a product like MAC Strobe Cream. It is almost like a priming moisturizer base that you can use as a highlight. I like using products like this when I am applying powder foundation, just to make the powder foundation have a little bit more of a radiance to it, because I don't like something that's overly matte. So I'm definitely hanging on to the L'Oreal True Match Lumi Glotion. 2 shades of the MAC Strobe Cream. I have the shade Peach Light, and I have the shade Silver Light. Sadly, I think Silver Light was discontinued because it is no longer on MAC's website. So I'm going to put that right here. To be fair, MAC Strobe Cream, even though it came in 4 different shades, the shades didn't really do too much. I believe when I was with MAC, there was the original one, which was the only shade they had for years, which was called Pink Light. Then they expanded it to have Silver Light, Gold Light, Peach Light, and Red Light. Red Light was discontinued shortly before I left. And from what I just saw, it looks like Silver Light is also discontinued. And Peach Light is nice. It's just, I don't need both. I don't need both of them. I am going to hang on to the Silver Light. My Peach Light I bought the beginning of this year, and these have a 24-month shelf life. So I'm going to pass this on to a friend who I think will really, really enjoy it. Speaking of hydrating, illuminating products, I have the La Mer, the Hydrating Illuminator. This is one of those products I have no idea why I bought it. I remember I just left Nordstrom and I was walking through there one day. I saw this and I wanted it and I bought it. Wow, that sounds like an Ariana Grande song. I wanted it and I bought it. But yeah, it has a very similar effect to the MAC Strobe Cream. It is a little, like, compared to the L'Oreal True Match Lumi Glotion, MAC Strobe Cream, and the La Mer is by far the most hydrating. Now, that that being said, actually, hold on, let's talk about one more product and we will then talk about that. Another Glotion product I have is the Bobbi Brown Extra Illuminating Moisture Balm. This is in the shade Bare Glow. I'm going to put this right there. Bare Glow has more of a warm golden undertone to it. It also has a very strong kind of lemony smell to it. I remember this came in a kind of multi-pack of different products that I got during the Nordstrom sale. It came with this, the tinted lip balm, their powder illuminator in Pink Glow, and then a little brush. I think I will have decluttered everything except for the highlighting brush. I don't mind the color. It works as a color corrector, but the smell is a little too strong. It has a citrus oil in it, which my skin doesn't agree with. It gets very easily irritated by. So I'm going to declutter this Bobbi Brown Extra Illuminating Moisture Balm in the shade Bare Glow. And I realized when we were talking about that Bobbi Brown Illuminating base, I didn't talk about this Bobbi Brown powder highlight in the shade Pink Glow. So this was part of the set I got from Nordstrom that came with the Bare Glow. And I was curious to try this. One of my really good friends, she used to be an educator for Bobbi Brown, and this was one of her all-time favorite products. She's like, you need to try it, you'll love it. I bought the full size. I didn't love it, and I passed it on to a friend. I think I actually gave it to her, and then she was like, thank you so much, I'm almost out. And then I was like, we'll try it again, and it came in this set and 2 issues. The shade is too dark, it's too warm, rosy copper for my skin, and it emphasizes my skin texture like no one's business. So I'm going to part ways with this deluxe sample size of Pink Glow. So decluttering this Bobbi Brown highlighter for the second time. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter, and mine is in the shade Light number 2. So it has a very large, oversized doe foot. I really, really enjoy the formula of the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter. The shade's very, very workable for me. When I repurchase this in the future, I will definitely go for shade 1, because sometimes it can feel like this is just a little too dark and too gold to be a proper highlight on my skin. But I really, really like the formula, and I feel like the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter really started the trend that we're seeing now for these beautiful liquid highlights that give a little bit of coverage and really perfect the look of the skin. I absolutely love this. Next, we have the Auric Glow Lust. This is in the shade Morganite. This is the second release, which has been nicknamed Morganite 2.0. Compared to the original shade, this is supposed to be slightly lighter and slightly more cool toned. I have not tried the original variation of the shade, so I cannot speak to that on a personal note, but that is what the brand said when they reformulated this. Now, compared to the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter, I find the base color has about the same level of pigmentation. You get coverage from both products. I find the Auric Glow Lust has more of a light reflective property to it compared to the Charlotte Tilbury, and it has more of a makeup-y feel to it on the skin compared to the Charlotte Tilbury. Now, that being said, it's not a heavy filling product by any means. It feels quite weightless on the skin, but if you're blending them out with your fingers, you'll notice the Charlotte Tilbury has a thinner formula compared to the Auric Glow Lust. Between the two, it could be just the shade alone, but I kind of am starting to lean more towards the Auric Glow Lust. The next up in this kind of little family of highlights is the Lisa Eldridge Seamless Skin Elevated Glow Liquid Highlight. I have the shade Crystal Nebula, which is the lightest of the 4 shades Lisa Eldridge has in her line. It comes with a large doe foot applicator. So when you start blending this out, the shade becomes more workable on its own. If I was going to apply this really really, really thickly and really build up that base color. It would be a little struggle because it does have more of a warm kind of gold, almost like an olivey golden feel to it. Blended out, the shade does become quite sheer, like it just kind of melds with the skin. In a perfect world, I would have a shade that is a fraction lighter and a fraction more on the neutral to cool side of things, but that's just being very, very picky. The shade is very workable. Of these three, this is definitely my favorite, as this does have a special film former Lisa included in the formula, which helps to kind of tighten the skin temporarily and smooth out the appearance, which makes this very flattering on fine lines, enlarged pores, and unwanted skin texture. Very, very beautiful. And it's funny because the Charlotte Tilbury was my favorite for many years, and then the Auric came into my life, and then the Lisa Eldridge, and I just kind of like these two a little bit more than I do the Charlotte Tilbury now. And the newest liquid highlight to my life is the Chanel LeBlanc Rosy Lighting Drops. This has a little pump applicator. The lid is white with a little classic Chanel double C monogram. I am going to put a little bit of that right here. Off the bat, we can see this has a more cool blue pinkiness to it. The Chanel LeBlanc range is all about brightening the skin, so you tend to find more cool undertone blue pink shades, as a lot of times when it comes to brightening, they are brightening targets, generally speaking, sallowness in the skin, which has more of a gray yellow cast, which will be neutralized by the blue pinky purple color in these products. So you can see here, compared to the different highlights that we have here, the Chanel has more of a cool undertone, and for my skin tone, it's the one that really pops it. It has a little bit more of a brightness in the base than my skin tone, but if I'm going for more of a statement pop with my highlight, but I want it to be more natural in a sense, I would go with this one. Of all of the textures, once they dry down, the Chanel is my favorite. It is the thinnest, it's the most lightweight. The Lisa Eldridge has more of a tightening effect. The Auric has a beautiful base shade with pigmentation. The Charlotte Tilbury is a classic. It is a beautiful formula. I want to try a different shade just because looking at the shade, it's just too dark, too peachy for my skin tone, despite being able to make it work. And the more I swatch, the more this Bobbi Brown Pink Glow highlighter just really sticks out like a sore thumb. We started off with the official count was 61 highlighters. That is a ton. And very excited to announce that my final number for keeping is 30 out of 61. So I decluttered over half of my collection. And if we want to get even more specific, 3 of those highlighters are going to other parts. This is going to my face powder kind of drawer, and then the Buxom is going to the archives, as it was limited edition, you can no longer get it, and then the Pat McGrath is going to my display shelf because this color is just off, but the packaging is pretty. So that means I'm keeping 27 active in my rotation. I've really loved testing out all these different highlights over this past year because I'm someone who's always enjoyed highlighting, but I found that I don't personally like a lot of highlighters. Like, of everything I've tried in these different categories, there's some products that I've purchased throughout the year and decluttered before I ever talked about on my channel because I just didn't like them. And I was like, you might like this, take it. So I'm very picky with my taste, but I feel like that works because someone out there might have similar makeup tastes as I do. So if you found this highlight declutter helpful and enjoyable, make sure you give this video a like. Make sure you subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and share it with a friend who likes binging on makeup declutter series. Make sure you stay tuned because we are still going to go through my bronzer, contour, base palette, and blushers. And we might even throw in some base products like foundations, concealers. So stay tuned for that, and I will see you all in those. Bye, y'all.